15 dastardly betrayals, 27 broken hearts, 8 bloody revolutions, 765 deadly bullets, 200 litres of blood, countless tears, 22 blissful reunions, 1 film festival.
Hi, my name is Jenny Neighbour and I'm the Sydney Film Festival Programmes Manager with a particular responsibility for programming documentary, and I'm here to talk about the Foxtel Australian Documentary Prize. There are 10 films in the lineup. There are films which are world premieres, there are films which are Australian premieres, and a couple that were screened already in Australia, one of which was Life in Movement. It's a very Sydney story. It's the story of Tanya Liedtke, who was just recently appointed the head of the Sydney Dance Company when she was killed in a traffic accident. It's a very, very moving story, but also one that gives you great insight into how an artist creates a work as well. 3 of the world premiere films in the Foxtel Australian Documentary Prize are from filmmakers based in Sydney, one of which is The Hungry Tide.
I'm Tom Zabriskie. I made The Hungry Tide. This is my 10th film at the Sydney Film Festival. So the film is about Kiribati, a country nobody seems to know very much about, but it's a country that will be soon swallowed up by the sea. In 100 years, scientists predict that it's going to be the first nation to disappear as a sovereign state. The main character is a woman who lives in Sydney. She's from Kiribati. She's shy and awkward, but in the film she matures and becomes confident and addresses people on the world stage. She also has her family on the islands, and she's very close to them and very passionate about making sure that they're well resourced. There's pressure on her as somebody who earns a living in a Western country to make sure that they're okay. So she has to balance the needs of her family, their personal needs, with her work as an advocate for her country.
Another Sydney filmmaker is Catherine Scott, and Pat Fisk is the producer there. They've made Scarlet Road, which is about Rachel Wooten, who's a Sydney sex worker who actually campaigns to allow everyone to have their right to freedom of sexual expression, and she particularly works with people with a disability. This is one of the most moving films I've seen for a long time, and when I think about all the films I've seen at the Berlin Film Festival and the International Documentary Festival in Amsterdam, this one really, for me, just pulled the rug from under my feet. I loved it.
Tonight's really important. I haven't got much movement below the knee. To be able to achieve normal sexual function when you think yourself incapable of it, I feel like a real bloke again.
These are people that very often has, for a long time, never been touched.
Everybody needs to have somebody to hold hands with.
Sexuality and sexual expression is the last bastion.
It has been my dream to have a woman stay in my bed overnight.
Everyone has a right to sexual expression, and that includes people with disability.
I'm Hugh Piper. I've directed Dancing with Dictators, a film about Ross Dunkley, an Australian who runs a newspaper in Burma. We went into the paper at the time of the first election in 20 years. Ross is an uncompromising sort of guy. He was out on the streets, encouraged us to get out on the streets. In the long run, that led to our deportation. Our deportation then impacted on Ross. He ended up in jail. He was charged with immigration offences. In the long run, a sex scandal sort of emerged that engulfed him about his involvement with a sex worker that he was supposed to have imprisoned. None of it really hangs together, but the woman involved dropped all charges. But Ross ended up in insane prison, one of the worst prisons in Asia. He's now being dangled like a little puppet while his business partner, who is very closely connected to the government, makes a move on his company. So they want to basically get rid of Ross. So the film is called Dancing with the Dictators, the story of the last foreign publisher in Burma.
So one of the other world premieres in the documentary competition is I'm Not Dead Yet by Janine Hoskins, and this follows the wonderful Chad Morgan, who's known as the Sheik of Scrubby Creek, and he's got the donkey tooth grin, and it's just the best music doc and really follows this great character who's now in his late 70s. Story of his life, but some fabulous music along the way.
I'm Mitzi Goldman. I'm the director and the producer of A Common Purpose. It's a film about 26 people who were convicted of murdering a policeman. 14 of them were sentenced to hang, and they were defended by 2 white lawyers in South Africa. One of them was assassinated during the course of the trial, and the other one continued to work their case and managed to eventually free them from death row. This all happened in the last 5 years of the apartheid regime. It's an archival compilation film, and it's pieced together from people's memories, photographs, archives and interviews of a very important time and the biggest murder trial in South Africa's history. It's a story about a woman who uses the law in a very specific way to fight for justice in a country where law was used for injustice. It's a really strong and important reminder of the apartheid regime, which unbelievably generations of people may not even know about.
Andy Anton's been shot 9 times.
The finalists are chosen from I think it was roughly 70 films that were submitted for the competition. I watched them all in consultation with my colleagues. We boil it down to 10 films. Must admit it was a particularly hard choice this year because it was a really good lineup. And a jury of 3 will select one film to win the cash prize.